Hello world, Patricia O'Connor and Frida Reba Darcy here today. It is Wednesday, mid-April. We're just going to say mid-April. What day is it today? Today on the Bonsai Balcony, what we are looking at is 9 Japanese black pines that we started. If you've been watching this show for a little while, you've probably been in on this from the start. We started off with a posting on social media for Japanese black pine seeds. We answered that ad and Venmo'd, I think, PayPal, whatever, $17, and then no time, literally really fast, these seeds showed up. Ziploc baggie in between 2 pieces of cardboard with a small strip of wood, 2 in between, to make sure that no matter what the U.S. mail system ran that through, those seeds wouldn't get crushed in between those 2 little pieces of wood, in between those 2 pieces of cardboard that were filled out correctly and had the proper postage, so they arrived really fast to our door. I've done 3 or 4 rounds of these, and today I went out to the ledge where I have this little row of seedlings, and some of them are getting way bigger than the others. And also I could tell by location that some of them are making out better than others due to where they are. Like the ones closer to the water that comes from the rain. Those guys were these. Also, they were closer to the edge, so maybe when the sun is here, they got the light, and maybe they shadowed the other one. So I scooped up 9 of the tallest ones to do first. The others are coming along, and we'll do those later as they get maybe up to this height. Then I went to the back row where they are noticeably smaller and go, evidently location is an issue. And I moved all of those forward. So from now on, they'll be on the front row, and these guys will take the position that they had once had. So maybe could have rotated those out a little more often. Might have evened out. These would look a little smaller, but maybe some of those others would look a little bigger, for what that's worth. What I would like to do today with these guys is give them their first little bit of wire, their initial little wiring. What this is traditionally this isn't the part where you like you guys in the past have seen me take these and do Cheerios and do some pretty spectacular canyon bends. It's not what we're going to do here today. Today is not going to be about that. It's going to be more about getting some motion in these guys early, coming out of the pot. I mean, where they come out of the ground. We're just going to make a spiral. We're just going to make a spiral. We're going to stab a wire in there, or maybe push it up from the bottom. I haven't decided which yet. Yeah, I think I'm going to stab it from the top. And then we're just going to put a spiral on them and move on to the next tree. So that's, if I were a bonsai producer, I would be doing these by the table loads, right? A couple of thousand at a time. And this would be one of the stages. This would be, I think that's long enough. I'm going to go a little longer. This would be some of the stages of that. This would be what we would be finding ourselves doing a couple of times a year. We'd go to this whole table full of trees, and we'd add its initial wire, and then we'd go through and we add that wire to those guys. Then we put them all back and wait for our next round. Maybe that next round is they go up to a bigger pot and So I just had that in and I lost it. How did you do that? So that's kind of, you know, it would be more factory. You know, it's kind of like a bonsai factory. We're just going to go through here today and we're going to put our initial bin and all of those guys. And I am not going to cut this in the, there it is. I'll just use that. So yeah, we would just go through in a very systematic way and take our lot of trees very, very, very quickly to their next stage of development. While I'm here, I'll probably remove a little clover that some of them look like they have. And before I put them back, I will make sure that they all have another round of fresh bio gold on them. These guys will not be getting their candles cut because they're not going to be in bonsai pots. We are right now. Their roots are allowed to expand however much they want to in there, and we're just gonna keep moving on like that. I'm gonna do one more round of that. So far, I've got about 6 or 7 of those little wires cut, ready for us to start with. I think this is heavy enough to do that. It's aluminum. I'm not doing good copper wire for this little infancy state. I think we're using heavy enough wire to do this job. But if not, I'll double it. I would not have an issue with that. And all we're going to do, like I said, is we're just going to put that kind of go through and do that. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on each individual tree. In fact, on some of them I might spend, if I'm on my game, I might spend as much time or more weeding, which ain't that the way it goes. Okay, so that's got us. That's our wires. My toys on hand today. I have a pair of stainless steel wire cutters. I have a pair of Japanese wire cutters also. I have a pair of cheap scissors because I don't really see me needing scissors, but I don't want to use my good ones if I have to do anything with them. I have the can't go without our wiener skewers, and I have a pair of tweezers I probably won't need. This is a nice looking little pine. It looks very healthy. Very, very healthy. And we'll clean up some of this stuff on the bottom. I'm seeing a few heat affected needles, looks like from last year. Heat affected needles. Otherwise healthy. Yellow tips, like that indicates damage, like a certain time last year, kind of a thing. And otherwise they look good. All the other parts of the same needles look good, but you see little yellow tips. I think that lines up with the heat spell we had last year. Okay, let's take this little guy right here. And then it's a nice looking little pine. Very healthy, quite a few buds already on it this year. I'm gonna take that wire right up next. It's hard for me to do this way. Normally, I'm like all up in this tree's business right now. It's kind of, I gotta remember, this isn't a 30-minute video on this tree. This is me wrapping a wire around 9 trees quickly and then doing something else like that. That was our initial. Yeah, I have needles in there, not a lot, and I plotted my course with that wire in such a way as to avoid those needles. But yeah, it's completely over. It's completely grown out like a healthy tree, so there was going to be some of that. All right, bend it straight down, coming on around and coming on around, just like that, just like that, um, except faster. Go faster. All right, we're gonna remove this little bit of clover. Y'all see me throwing stuff on the ground. This is a concrete pad in here, and every so often, I'll let it go 2 or 3 shows, and then I'll decide it for the instant gratification. I'll take the shop vac and go through here. You're fine. I'm not even gonna mess with that. That's what I'm talking about. Whenever we have trees growing in trays of substrate and they're in tiny little pots, these are the guys that are their insurance policy. This is kind of like that extra little folding money in the purse in case things don't go well and you need a cab home or something. Yeah, I mean, with the cab. Okay, got the weeds there. We're gonna remove some of this bottom dead stuff, but we're not overly gonna manicure this tree or any of them. Probably don't need to go chunking their bottle gold anywhere. So the first thing I do when I stab this wire is, here's the trunk. I don't take the wire and stab it this way. I come in this way, and then I pinch the wire and the trunk and do that first bend. We want that first bend to arc underneath the surface where we can't see it. Later, when we look at this tree at the base, we will see that it's got good motion at the base. And if we scrape the soil away, we should see a little more. What we do there should have an effect a little bit on what's going on below the surface at the very base of the tree. I'm not saying the tree's spinning around inside the pot. Also, okay, tree number 2. So I'm kind of turning my hand inside out, so whenever I do this, I get a good motion on that tree coming right out of the ground. If I were to hand this tree to somebody else and this were their first bonsai tree, they would have a little tree that already had very, very good motion when the trunk came out of the soil. Right there where that is happening, I want them to see that moving in hopefully more than one direction. That is a good start. Okay, faster, except faster. Oh, and get rid of that extra stuff there. Wasted wire. It's okay, it's aluminum. These are healthy little trees. This guy's, man, yeah, it's going to town. Like I said, I won't be decantling these trees. I might be bud selecting. I guess there's a certain amount of sense to be had for not bud selecting, but yeah, I might be bud selecting. We'll see. Okay, so I went in at the angle with my wire. I go like, here's my stem, here's my trunk coming up out of the ground. I go just like that, and then I grab that at the base in the trunk, just like that. And then I kind of push it down because I'm not down there in the pot with it, so I kind of force that wire down a little. There. And bring that around and had less needles to contend with on this one, which is good, but I'm still having to avoid, I'm not going to avoid necessarily all these needles, but I definitely do not want to wire down any buds, any of our buds. Could leave that, depending on how you feel about it. The tree's going to continue to grow, so if it grows this tall, you've got that to continue to hang out there in case you need it. You can cut it now, and then maybe in a little while you'll see where you wanted to wrap that part of it, in which case you'll have to hook another wire. I have damaged trees before. Hooking can cause problems. You think you've joined two pieces of wire together in a way, and then once you get up here a little bit, your hook fails, and then you see where you have damage. They come unconnected or something under tension, and that leads to damage or something like that. All right. Good motion. A little weed removal. It'll be, this one will be pretty easy. It doesn't have, this one I guess is probably a good time to be doing that on this one, right? I don't have all the needles down there the way I do on these, so I don't have, do I pull all of that? Yeah, maybe. It's something I should be considering, but I don't get to keep those I pull for sure, and those that I wire, I will cause the tree energy. It will still try to supply them while not getting a lot of return. That's why you should not. It's better to pull or plug needles that you know are going to be in the way rather than wire them. Oh yeah, that was, for me, that worked out better than a lot of the others. It's just something about having that much bare trunk. We come out of the ground running there. I kind of got straight at the top unnecessarily. Probably don't have to do this part now, but go this way with it. Okay. And you should hopefully be able to see there's pretty good movement coming out. Oh, they had rocks covering it. Pretty good movement on this guy where it comes out of the substrate. Okay. Very vigorous. Also, a lot of these guys are going to need to have their fertilizer replenished, which is good. We think we know where all that fertilizer went, and it's we're wiring it. We're currently wiring where all that fertilizer went. All of those nutrients. Stop there. Don't take all day with it. This is not like those of you who've seen me do what I love to call the Cheerios. This is before one of the trees that I felt like we had some of the best luck with was one of them. that I had gotten. Instead of getting mail order little seedlings, I had gotten a pre-bonsai seedling mail order. And that little bit of motion in the trunk to start off with um, really got us going. Really got us going in a good direction, and was a moment for me when I saw that that is it's never really too early to establish that. Uh, and also, I saw on some of my own pines that in instances where I had not addressed that earlier, it became an issue later. And I could only fix those in some instances with planting angle, which in the case that I got in my fairly recent memory, helped the look of the tree in question a lot. But had I not needed to play that card, I would have still had that. I still would have had that to possibly make an even more dramatic tree. Had it already had good motion without me having to turn it on its side, right? If I if it came out of the ground in such a way as to look abstractly beautiful, and then at the same time you still had that option of doing that angle change. You've just got more. I can only use so many metaphors, but that really gives you quite a few arrows in your quiver when it comes to what you can do towards the styling of that tree. All right. Yeah. Weeding. As opposed to this guy. This guy is short and stocky. Very short. Very green. Very kind of thick. Yeah. Okay. These trees are going to go back in a position where kind of like rotation. We're going to do a little rotation. I could probably go with a shorter wire on here. If any of these I have are questionably short, this would be the one to use that. Okay, boom. We happen to have one of those. Go in at an angle. Bring it around as close to the bottom or below the surface of the soil as you can. Make every attempt to influence that wire as far down the trunk as possible for your first wrap. Try to keep it as tight around the tree as possible. And I always pinch. So whenever I stab it at an angle and then pinch it, I curl that around, and then I grab it there, and I curl that around, and then I grab it there and curl that around. So I'm not enticing that wire to do something weird and start tearing off stuff or carving the bark up or anything. Now also my wiring should be tight and stuff to where that isn't necessarily going to be an issue going in, but it's also because I'm doing that we're making sure we don't get any damage. Out of a shipment that I got last year of 10 ponderosa pines, the first one I lost because I bent it badly. I folded it badly and caused a gash in the tree that it didn't recover from. I'm like, wow, these are not Japanese black pines, because while I wouldn't say that's nothing, I have seen black pines recover from this type of thing fairly often. And other people have since then kind of reinforced that lesson within me, that if you get a gash on one of your little ponderosas, you do need to go back and fix that. You need to put cut paste on that. on pondos more than Japanese black pine. I'm not going to speak for other species that I don't have. Okay. Do you need to cut more wires? I do. I need to cut 1 or 2 more wires before we're done here. We'll survive that. This guy, best of both worlds. Very vigorous looking pine. Lots of buds already starting to come out. It's got a little bit of thickness in its trunk compared to its siblings planted at the same time, and yet it gives me a little bit of trunk. 2 buds coming out right there, very picturesque where you would like to see them. And now I'm just going to try to pick a path of least resistance here, kids. Yeah, just do it. There's that worm. I'm pulling the needles, but I'm trying to make sure I'm at least pulling the right needles so I don't pull off needles to keep from wiring them, only to wire different needles. Yeah. That's probably happened. And then I try to slide my little buds out of the way. I'm not going to pretend I'm not got like 100 bazillion little needles wrapped up in here, but that is so not something we want to do in our other stages of wiring. But it's kind of a trade-off. I could tear off enough needles to make sure that I don't wire anything. But then I'm going to be tearing off a whole lot more needles than I would actually end up covering up with wire. I can go back through these later with tiny scissors and tweezers and get anybody that I captured out of there. Which in this situation, kind of for the now of it, makes more sense to me. Maybe that's a measure of my game at this stage. I could live with that. Good motion on this guy early on. And I'm twisting the tree around. If you twist the tree on around, I believe years and years and years from now, you should be able to see that motion. I should be able to see that twist in the bark it'll have 10 years from now. That's what I think. No, yes, no, maybe. That was yes, no, maybe debate over whether or not I, in the end, cut enough of these wires to do all of these. I only had 9, and I thought I cut at least that many wires, but yeah, I think so. Another happy little tree. We got some more clover to pull out of that guy. You know, we might just sit back and do this until all of those, this could be the thing I do. We'll do other stuff too, but maybe tonight we'll do something a little different. But I would expect to see me, I think it's probably a good time for me to go through and take care of all of these while I have them now. Or at least until I get done with all of them that look like they can stand this. If some of them are still, frankly, I don't have a tree as small as the smallest one we potted up and wired last year. All of those that we started are all at least that big. But I think it would be a good time at least to go through on all of these guys, as many of them as we can, that we started, that we popped last year, that we germinated and popped. Get as much motion in these guys as we can. It's time to go through and do all of them, do all these guys now. This guy. Did we get our motion in there? Oh, yeah. I did. Come on, little tree. You're going to be awesome. Put some of what we took away back. I dumped a little bit more substrate. Out of a little more and went a little deeper with the motion on that one. That might be fun later to see how that turns out. Okay. Last two. Very pretty, healthy looking little tree. A very healthy looking little tree. Does have a little bit of signs of some of that before mentioned heat burn on some of last year's needles. Weeding. I wonder how many times I did this. Quite often, I looked at those little trees last year and thought, they're babies, they're young, they're strong, they can do anything. And some of the trees that we lost, we probably lost because I broke, you know, I know of several rules I broke, but I wanted to see if what I didn't, sometimes I proceeded on the notion that what I don't know, will it kill us or will it not kill us? And we did have our losses. So then you kind of go back and you figure out what happened there. I know on some of these cases, especially one in particular, that I stalled a tree after I repotted it. And that's kind of a no. That's pretty much a no. And it's something that we kind of do a lot of times when we're new, until we've heard enough times or learned enough times to not do that. What that does is, if I just, you shouldn't, they say you shouldn't style and repot a tree in the same year. There are exceptions to that, like if you're going into a show or something maybe. But you shouldn't style and repot a tree in the same year. And if you were to do that, between the two, repotting and then styling is far worse than styling and repotting. The order. Both are bad. One of them is worse. The reason is, when the teacher was explaining this, they said if your tree is moving, it's dying.
Afternoon.
I also felt like that was a phrase from a much bigger lesson that maybe I'd missed, but that's just the way things strike me at the time. If your tree is moving, it's dying. I also take that to mean that when we do this, if we do not we don't wire our trees down, and we just kind of throw the rock on there so it'll be still. The times that it's not still are setbacks. Those are tearing the roots up. So if I repotted that little tree and it's wired in the pot and everything, but I repotted it and then I go cranking on it, below the surface it's moving. And if it's moving, it's dying. It goes right back to what they just said. And if you think about it, you see what they're meaning. Every little movement of the roots, they're not supposed to move, they're supposed to grow. right? So that's pushing out the ends or pushing out the sides or something, but they're not like caterpillars physically moving. And if they are doing that, it's destroying the youngest parts of them. All of that little fine fibrous stuff, that's all getting pretty much ripped to shreds. And that's what they mean by if it's moving. That's what he meant when he said if it's moving, it's dying. So if you know, just things that I'm learning. When you know better, you do better. I think that's I think that's, you know, life is like that. When you know better, you do better. And in the know better, do better, I'm going to try to pay more particular attention to what has been repotted and when, because I've got enough trees now to where I haven't been keeping notes. I have not been keeping notes up until now, and it's not automatic. Well, if I see a tree that's less than a year old and it's in a bonsai pot, that means it's got potted this year. Roots coming out of the bottom of this guy. Really, really happy little tree. Also, this little guy is hitting the trifecta. I probably need a lot of branches started on that guy. We styled trees last year. A lot of those little mames that we did last year. Some of them didn't have buds on them anywhere. Just the little top still. And I'm like, I'm excited about what we've already done to the start of this tree, and yet it doesn't have so much as a limb, so much as a bud, let alone a limb. And this little guy is having none of that. Same deal. Stab it early on in there. Put the wraps to it. Now, the difference between me and a bonsai professional is while I've been standing here flapping my gums the whole time, a bonsai professional would have sat down to a table of several hundred of these, and in the time that it took me to say "and" in that sentence, they would have already done one, and they would be like 3 more past that by now, because you would literally have hundreds of these to do today, and you're not going nowhere until they're done, because your livelihood depends on it. Oh my goodness, that tree, absolutely fabulous little tree. All right, guys, these are Japanese black pine trees that you and I germinated, started in our kitchen. In some cases, we fought off doves. Doves are stupid. For all their good looks. Jesus Louise. Anyway, and these are the first round of those. We have now put a piece of aluminum wire on them, so really light gauge stuff, and we've started that first motion. The most important part of that is not how well it comes up here, but how much motion we got early on. Because years from now, bonsai people will be thanking their lucky stars that we did this, or they will be cursing that lack of movement, that in this opportunity that would have been missed. So that's what's important. If we hit it, then our trees are healthy, unscarred, and we got a good maybe 3 directions on them coming out of the ground. Not so important if we were looking to make an informal upright. Not looking to do a lot of informal uprights, although I always will. You won't probably see me decide to do a dozen informal uprights and see which one of them comes out great. But there will probably also typically be one. I think of informal uprights, it's like the Barbie doll. It's like the specimen, the unbelievable specimen. You know, like if you were to say, break test tube for perfect pine tree, there would be an informal upright in there, you know? So, yeah, that's kind of the way I think. And sometimes I've been stopped in my tree. The first bonsai tree I ever saw, I had to walk up and look at it, terrified to touch it, but I was looking really close to see if it was some form of molded plastic that simulated wood perfectly, because I couldn't believe a tree could be that small and look just so much like a real tree. I had, you know, the 10 feet test had to turn into like the stick your nose up next to the tree and look at the base and see what the roots are doing, and seeing if there was something in there that would give it away. And when you walk away going, no, that's really a tree, I was hooked. Uh, and that's kind of bonsai at its beginning. Also, we started these from seeds, and now we've got that motion in them, and we're off to a good start. So we'll let them go for a little while. Maybe this time next year we'll come in and lay a chopstick or something like this, and take that motion that we started, going to town on it. But right now, where it's going to be its thickest part, where it establishes itself with Mother Earth, it's going to do so in such a way that they are going to be in a dance. One of them is going to be laying back. And I feel pretty good about the start here. We're going to do that to the rest of them too. Like and subscribe if you guys haven't already. Our next spot will possibly be tonight. And this is my Wednesday, my little Wednesday break. We'll for sure be out here again tomorrow, but I'll probably do something again tonight, and then we'll just pick up from there and see what goes on. And I appreciate you, and Frida appreciates you, and thank you so much for watching.